Hello and welcome to On Wrist Reaction. My name is Blake Bettner, the managing editor of Worn and Wound.
I'm Thomas, editor of Worn and Wound.
This is a series where we give our honest impressions to watches that are new into the office, watches that we haven't really seen. Sometimes they're new, sometimes they're not, but they're new to us no matter what. And this is more or less our honest reaction to them. So today we've got 3 watches that cover quite a span. We are going to start with this Jack Mason.
Jack Mason.
This is a Jack Mason watch. It's called the Strato Liner Timer. The Strato Timer. I wouldn't know it was Jack Mason because it doesn't say Jack Mason anymore on the dial. It's just a star, like it's a sheriff's badge or something on the dial at 12 o'clock.
I believe the brand is based out of Texas.
Well, that makes a lot of
Austin,
sense.
yeah,
Okay.
so that's probably the reason
Texas has a thing with stars, right? That's
they
like
do.
a part of their, okay.
The Lone Star State, I think that's what
Is that what, that's what it's called? All right.
Yeah.
So this is the Strato Timer. This is a GMT, and this uses that new Miyota movement that has an independently adjustable hour hand.
That's right.
And it's under $1,000. It's got the Pepsi bezel, of course, a blue dial. What do you think of this watch?
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty cool. I think as far as the GMT movements that are being released by Miyota and the ones that we already have with ETA with the independent hour hand, this is the watch that one of the first, I believe, that got released in this size. Boulder released one with the Miyota 9075, but it was a touch too big for my liking.
It was quite big.
This one definitely hits a lot of sweet spots for me as far as case size goes. Yeah, it's just a handsome watch. Obviously it takes a lot of inspiration from the Pepsi, the Rolex GMT Master, right? Yeah. If you're gonna take after a GMT watch, right? Like, why not? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. It comes with this slick Jubilee bracelet, right?
Ish.
So yeah, Jubilee-ish, right. I mean, it looks great on wrist here. Yeah, I mean, it's a handsome watch by Jack Mason. We got to hang out with these guys during Wind Up in New York, and they got a lot of cool things cooking there in the Lone Star State.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I like those guys quite a bit. I feel like their heads are in the right spot for sure. This watch, I don't know if I'm a huge fan of. I like it. If they're going to do something like this, I would like to see something like wholly original. The case here, I guess, is, it's more or less its own thing. It's certainly more wearable than the Boulder. However, I will say the Boulder is distinct. It's original. It's its own thing. This kind of like leans into a certain territory. A little hard for my liking, and but obviously it's under $1,000.
Yeah.
It's just under $1,000. So I think it's a good thing that these are starting to leak out there in watches like this. Is obviously like a huge demand for watches that look like this, that function like this in that price range. So I'm happy to have more options kind of along those lines as well. So
I think more importantly, it's the kind of first wave of GMTs we're seeing with this movement. So I mean,
yeah, that's right. It's a big deal, and I know that we're starting to see them kind of squeak out little by little here. So this is just kind of another welcome option along the way. It's got what looks to have a quick adjustment in the clasp there. So it's got a lot of the things that are becoming kind of like par for our expectations with watches like this now. I see it's got inscripted on the inside of the buckle, "Be your best." So
your best.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Be your best.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see what type of bezel iterations they come out with. Maybe a different color, something like that.
That's true. And they do offer other color ways of this, and I would probably prefer those a little bit more to this one. I think this is kind of like a golden black or something along those, and then a white with maybe orange or something like that. So. I like it. I like it when they kind of lean into their own territory, and those feel like they do that. So check this one out. We will have a review of this watch, or hands-on impressions of this watch on the site relatively soon. So if you have any questions about this watch, be sure to leave them in the comments down below. Moving on, we have a chronograph here from Brew. I take it this is called the Method.
It is the Method.
So we got 2 dial colors here. One in that's a really rich navy. I like that. And then obviously one in yellow.
Very punchy yellow.
Yeah, it's boy, these are distinct. Brew obviously has a knack for very distinct, clean visuals, which I appreciate. And then he incorporates inspiration from kind of high-end coffee making world, which is like total foreign language to me. so these things are like always a mystery to me. I see different, timing things marked off along the track there, along the outer edge. What's going on here?
Yeah, so the watch is called the Method and named after the ability for this watch to time 4 different methods of coffee making. So on the back here, it says, what do we have here? We have
the Method chrono.
Right.
Okay. Oh, I see. There's little like icons marking what they are.
Right.
Okay, so let me guess. The first one, 25 to 30 seconds, is that an espresso?
That's an espresso.
Okay,
right.
And then the second one looks like a beer mug.
I believe that's a French press.
A French press,
right.
That's what I meant.
Yep.
And then the third one looks like a cup of coffee. And then the last one looks like ice in a glass.
Right, so that's the cold brew.
The cold?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a pretty cool dial design. So the case does take after the retrograph that's in their catalog already. But the difference here is that, and as you said, is like this scale surrounding the border of the dial, and there's 4 different scales, so it kind of just adds this like layer to the dial. It kind of feels like there's this, you're like kind of peering in, and there's this like descending staircase that is the scale around the dial. Yeah, it's a cool watch. And again, this is a familiar case. There's no lugs here, and the strap kind of goes into the case itself.
Yep, right into the case. Yeah. There's a kind of a, I don't want to say like lumpy quality about the case, but it's certainly like the area around the edges that kind of, it's, would you call it a cushion? It's kind of pillowy shaped.
I think pillow is a good way of just, Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that shape, to be perfectly honest with you. But I really like the dial. I really enjoy the dial on this. And actually, like it goes pretty well on the wrist, I will say.
Yeah.
So what do you think of these colors? Which one would you be going for?
I'm going to have to go with the yellow dial here.
If you're going to do it, you got to go all in, right?
And I think this is the first time that Brew has used a dial color like this. They've like messed around with different accents of colors, and they did have like a pretty like wild looking retrograph with like a salmon dial, I believe, at some point.
Yeah.
But this one's a lot of fun. Yeah, and John's got a lot of good things going on there at Brew.
Yeah, absolutely. Big fan of what he's doing, of course. And the Method is, just kind of another step in that direction. So check this watch out. We've got, I think, some more that you wrote about this watch on the site right now. So do you know the price? Do you remember the price on those guys?
I don't remember off the top of my head here.
But it's
I believe it is, if not 500, I think 4.
It's using a Mecha Quartz.
Right.
There. Okay, cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
That's a sharp blue. Okay. Moving on into slightly different territory. We have a watch from a brand called Ulysse Nardin.
That's right.
And this is called the Freak. So the Freak has been around for a while. It's been kind of the standard bearer of their like technological innovations or logical innovations and things like that. So, which they have been at the forefront of for quite a while, actually. So this is probably like the more approachable wearable version of the Freak, one of the more approachable versions of the Freak that exists to this day. They've gone into some slightly crazy directions. This kind of tones it down almost. Obviously, there's a lot going on the dial here. So you'll see the minute hand rotating right there, and then the big, large, wide white apparatus below it, which actually moves with the entire underpinnings of the dial, is the hour hand. So all the working components of the gear train are kind of exposed and visible. Obviously, the most dramatic element here is the balance and the escape wheel working underneath. And they are made of some pretty exotic materials. There's a lot of really cool things happening here. They also have kind of this very efficient winding system, automatic winding system in back. There's a lot of cool, bells and whistles, I guess you would say, to this watch, which we will dig into in a more in-depth review on this watch. What do you think of this thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's really something to look at here. And I remember when you were when you did hand this to me, I was just taken aback, like how light it is, and it is a titanium case. But yeah, and it's just a dial. I'm taken aback by this dial. It's really something that, I mean, me personally, I haven't seen. And just that it doesn't have the running seconds hand, but you had mentioned that there is like a gear in there that kind of has that proof
yeah,
of life
the
there.
center. This is a kind of a fourth wheel down right at the very center. Traditionally, a seconds hand would be attached to and rotating, but you can see it rotating there, making its rotation once a minute, obviously. But I mean, there's a lot going on the dial. There's a lot to look at, and all of the components being fully exposed. It's a very like exotic feel to it.
Yeah, and then I guess my experience has totally been online with the Freak and the watches from UN, but to my understanding, this is more of the kind of like conservative, kind of like, you know, more approachable designs where it's just like I could see myself kind of like putting this on and kind of like wearing it for several days and not being like, oh, okay, this is like too out there. To wear, you know.
No, it's actually like bordering on practical.
Yeah.
That huge hand makes it really easy to find like where you're at in the hour, strangely. You know, when you're looking at it, you know, there's a bit to kind of digest there and kind of get your bearings, but once you do, like using it is a real breeze. The dimensions are really lovely. Actually, I think it's right around 40 millimeters. It's relatively thin, and it's got just kind of an overall really nice shape to it. And so, so it wears like really beautifully on the wrist. There's only a couple of things that I don't particularly care for, and one of them is these plaques on the side of cases. I'm really not too fond of those. I know some brands do them. Not a huge deal breaker. It's actually kind of on the underside of this of this case wall here, so you don't really notice it. It's not all that obvious. You can see the case shape itself has kind of some interesting angles going on there.
Yeah, and as far as that plaque, it is kind of like built into the case, into that rubber frame of the side of the case. And
so I don't think it's rubber. I don't know what it is though. It might be like a ceramic or something like that. All right. But we're just kind of getting our hands on this for the first time. But I've long been an admirer of the Freak visually. I think maybe sometimes it doesn't exactly hit the notes that I want it to hit, but I think this one is like comes the closest to, oh wow, this is like, there's something really compelling here. When you can compare it to other watches kind of in this realm, this kind of like exotic realm, it's obviously fully in-house. There's a lot of exotic manufacturing techniques going on here. You know, it's priced at $26,000, so not cheap by any stretch. But in the realm of those kinds of watches, like on the more approachable side. Of course, there's no complications here. It's literally an hour hand in a minute at work. So, but I think it's certainly interesting nonetheless. I think the Ulysse Nardin brand generally hasn't historically like spoken to maybe watch buyers in our neck of the woods. You know, like how they present themselves, the language they use in their marketing, which is fine, but I think that they kind of fall under the radar for people like us, like pretty easily when they do some pretty impressive things. So I think it's worth checking out. And again, we'll have a lot more on this watch, and we'll do kind of a technical breakdown of everything that's in this and what makes it so special in an in-depth review. But just as a watch, wearing around daily, you know?
Yeah. It's pretty slick.
It's pretty cool, right?
It's pretty slick, and you did mention the case angles there, and that's just the one thing that I'm noticing now, kind of how it kind of slants inwards as opposed to bowing out.
Yeah, which is kind of nice, right?
Yeah, it kind of adds a little different dynamic to the case there and to the watch itself. You know, it complements that dial really well. Yeah, it's a cool thing. I'm down with it, man.
Yeah. Tech deal, details aside, there's something cool here.
Out of the three, which one are you? Which one are you gonna go with, man?
Like, I mean, I'd be rocking this UN, like no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Like it's cool. Like I like Brew. This case shape is not my favorite Brew case shape personally. You know, where I think watches like the metric like really hit a sweet spot, are absolutely gorgeous. If that was a metric on the table, like 100%, I'm here for it. Or if you had this kind of complication, it's not a complication, but this kind of display. You know, I think that's really fun and exciting.
Yeah, you know what? I think I could be a Ulysse Nardin
Ulysse
guy.
Nardin guy.
Yeah,
okay.
I think I would, you know, rock this during the week, and then you know, on the weekend, Sunday morning when I'm just
crazy.
You know, just gonna time my espresso, you know,
bust
go with
out the yellow.
Go with the method.
What about this Freak with that yellow dial colorway? I think we could be onto something here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, that's the Ulysse Nardin Freak, the Brew method, and the Jack Mason from Texas, Strat-O Timer. Let us know what you think of all of these 3 watches down below. We'll have more details of these watches on warrenandwild.com. Be sure to check those out. Let us know what you pick down in the comments below. That's all for this edition of On Wrist Reaction. Thanks for tuning in. Please be sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. It helps us out a lot. And until next time, take care.